Good morning, sunshine. The earth says hello.
Today on Muskieminette, we will be looking at comedy during tragedy and when it's too soon to laugh at a time of crisis. After researching various late-night comedy shows and their approaches to major tragedies, we have formed a hypothesis that laughter is the best medicine. People cannot let go of their sorrow until they can find humor in it.
Some people may think it's too soon to make a joke, but if laughter is the best medicine, why do we shy away from it?
In the wake of 9/11, comedy shut down and was never expected to start again.
Where were you during the 9/11 attacks?
Well, I was in first grade, and I remember my teacher coming in and telling us what had happened. We all cried together, but none of us really understood why we were crying. We were too young to know what was going on. Where were you?
I was like 3 or 4, so it was probably either eating, sleeping, or playing outside. Not really sure. Could be a mixture of both.
In the wake of the terrorist attacks, late-night talk show hosts canceled their broadcasts. Humor publications such as The Onion temporarily stopped production. Comedy clubs were deserted, and even the internet stopped with their jokes.
America was in the mood to laugh, and people wondered if we ever would be. After a brief pause for grieving, comedy slowly started to begin to come back. Shows aimed for uplifting American spirits and reducing the fear of other enemies.
Humor provided a much-needed balm to help temporarily escape the horrific news of the event. The road began cautiously, almost apologetically. David Letterman's return to airwaves happened a week after the attacks.
To the Late Show, this is our first show on the air since New York and Washington were attacked, and I need to ask your patience and indulgence here because I want to say a few things, and believe me, sadly, I'm not going to be saying anything new. And in the past week, others have said what I will be saying here tonight far more eloquently than I'm equipped to do. But if we are going to continue to do shows, I just need to hear myself talk for a couple of minutes. And so that's what I'm going to do here.
His statements offered an emotional tribute to New York and set the tone for the rest of the late-night comedians.
The jokes faltered at first and were avoiding the tragedy itself. The more successful humor targeted America's response to the tragedies and the absurdities that developing war on terrorism. One of the boldest but yet successful stabs was The Onion. Their special report, 16 days later after the attack, featured headlines like, U.S. vows to defeat whoever we're at war with, and hijackers surprised to find themselves in hell.
Their special report is hailed as one of the best comic achievements of the 9/11 attacks. Despite the issue being foreseen as the publication's last, it was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. It provided the laughs we didn't even realize were needed, and it tapped into raw emotion and subtle ironies while still being funny. Weeks later, the biggest comedic punching bag became Osama bin Laden. This continued a long-lived tradition of demonizing and mocking our enemies during wartime.
At this point, it's important to note that people were not laughing at the victims of the aftermath of the attacks. Laughing at those who suffered during these attacks crossed the line between good and bad comedy approaches.
Jokes such as this one obviously crossed the line. The joke instead focuses on those who fell victim to the attack.
It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men.
Bad joke. Don't do it. I told you. We only did it just to show you. A part of American strong spirit is always our ability to laugh during difficult times. Laughing is an act of defiance. It is a fundamental approach of how we cope and who we are.
Jokes help people cope with various hardships. An ability to laugh at tough moments can reduce the negative emotions surrounding a stressful event. It can also create the positive feelings of amusement. Put together, these two positives can enhance coping powers. In the recent Paris attacks, we find ourselves looking to comedy to help relieve the tension.
Okay, John Oliver's last week tonight. He was the first late-night host to address the Paris attacks.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Oliver. Just time for a quick recap of the week, and sadly, we must begin with a few words about France, which on Friday suffered the deadliest attack on its soil since World War II. Look, it's hardly been 48 hours, and much is still unknown. But there are a few things we can say for certain, and this is when it actually helps to be on HBO, where those things can be said without restraint. Because after the many necessary and appropriate moments of silence, I'd like to offer you a moment of premium cable profanity. So here is where things stand. First, as of now, we know this attack was carried out by gigantic fucking arseholes. Unconscionable, flaming arseholes, possibly working with other fucking arseholes, definitely working in service of an ideology of pure arseholery. Second, and this goes almost without saying, fuck these arseholes. Fuck them, if I may say, sideways. And third, it is important to remember nothing about what these arseholes are trying to do is going to work. France is going to endure, and I'll tell you why. If you're in a war of culture and lifestyle with France, good fucking luck. Because go ahead, bring your bankrupt ideology. They'll bring Jean-Paul Sartre, Edith Piaf, fine wine, Gaulois cigarettes, Camus, Camembert, Madelaine's, macarons, Marcel Proust, and the fucking croquembouche. The croquembouche. You just brought a philosophy of rigorous self-abnegation to a pastry fight, my friend. You are fucked. That is a French freedom tower. So to the people of France, our thoughts are truly with you, and I do not doubt there'll be more to say on all of this as events unspool. But for now, we are going to continue with the rest of our show, and let's turn to other parts of the world, specifically...
Vokes termed the dress as exactly the right response. He tapped into the anger and fury that many of his viewers were feeling, while still respecting everyone except those who deserved it.
The standard for late-night shows after major tragedies is high. Yes, they need to recognize the weight of a tragedy, but there's a lot of elegance required to do so without the traditional cynicism that late-night hosts are famous for. Then they must smoothly transition out of a somber tone to get back to the comedy at hand.
To properly joke about Paris, we need to approach comedy just like we did in the 9/11 attacks. We need to focus on the humor on the attackers and avoid targeting the victims.
Comedy isn't important when trying to relieve a situation, but there's a fine line between being too serious to a point of depression, but too brash that it becomes insensitive.
We have to see through great comedians that humor can help people cope with tragedy while still being respectful. So can we start being funny again?
Why start now?